Okay, this is the Continuing Committee's June 2020 Board of Directors meeting. I'm Brian Schaeflein, Director of Operations and Chair. In attendance, we have Maggie Geppert, Executive Officer, Charlie Plain, Director of First Edition, and Justin Ford, Chief Financial Officer, Nick Yankovich, Director of Second Edition, and Chris Sonsonby, Director of Organized Play, are not able to attend this meeting. So because we are kind of shorthanded on this meeting, we're going to not do some of the new business. We're going to wait to have more board members on things like amending the bylaws. But the first order of business for this one is to approve the minutes for our last regular meeting. So for the May board meeting, did anyone notice anything wrong with the minutes?
All of my concerns have been noted and changed, so I will move to approve the May board meeting minutes.
And a second, Charlie or Justin?
I'll second.
Okay. Anyone opposed to approving them then? It's very weird with few people.
I say aye, we approve.
Okay. All right, then we'll consider the May minutes approved. And we also have minutes from the special meeting, June 14th, to approve as well. So any problems with those that need to be addressed?
No, again, everything has been fixed. That anything I saw was fixed. So I approve. I move to approve the meeting minutes for the special board meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. Anyone opposed to approving them? All right, so we'll consider the special meeting minutes approved too.
For everyone watching, those minutes are on the public forums in the FYI section.
Yep. So department reports. Let's see. We'll go with first edition since Charlie is available right now. Charlie, do you want to do department reports?
Sure. Things are going along nicely, although it hasn't moved as quickly as I would have liked over the past month. I've had a tough couple weeks. Some health challenges, physical and mental, and stress and job stuff. So I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm dedicated to this job and this position, and I'm going to stay that way. But it slowed me down a little bit. But overall, things are going well. We're all set for printable update on July 6th, first Monday. At the same time, we're going to be spoiling the new tournament promos. I guess this is more of an operations thing, but those are at the warehouse, and those are going to go up for sale on the 6th, and we'll spoil those. We have some organized play promos that are going to get spoiled this coming week. All of this includes first edition and second edition and tribbles, but I'm still managing promos, so cover that here. And Project Londo, which is the original series Cleon set, is moving nicely. The creative teams and rules teams have been chewing on that for a couple weeks. We've turned the corner on that one from moving towards finishing. So we're starting to cut some cards that aren't really working and get it down to our target size. And I'm pretty excited about that. And that should be moving into production in July. Another couple weeks of testing, I think, and that sucker will be moving on. We have a set in proofreading that's sort of a surprise thing, so I haven't really announced it yet, but it's going to be coming out later in July or August. That's going to be fun. Project Storm is developing nicely. That's going to be the next thing to testing after Londo. That's the set, the non-block set based on the end of DS9, the the 10-episode story arc at the end of DS9. And we launched, I guess I haven't announced it, but Project Rogue and Project Solo are the movie expansions, so they're going to be next year's block sets, and they're getting going with their design teams. So design-wise, things are going really well. Rules team is chugging along on some issues. We did have to do an emergency ban of Access Archives. That was mostly about timing of events, in that U.S. Nationals, this is being played online, was being started before the next ban window. And we didn't want that card to be a factor for that tournament and for Nada Worlds in August. So we went ahead and did an emergency ban on that. July 6th will also bring any balance changes. Still a little up in the air what we're going to do. It might be some errata. I don't think it's going to be a bunch of big bans or anything like that. Tribbles is kind of quiet right now. We're just sort of letting people sit with the Tribble of a different color. Because people aren't playing much right now, unfortunately. That's going to change here in July with the Subspace Series. I think Maggie is running weekly Tribbles tournaments, so I expect to start seeing a lot more Tribbles being played and having more, feedback on that expansion. And then we're going to start cooking up something to do next year, because we want to get back to the annual releases. So Money and Tribbles are in good places. We're having some big conversations internally, just like theoretical discussions amongst staff and the design teams about places we might go and things we might do. I've been working on and off for 6 months on a big giant article covering, the 2 and 5 year plan of 2E or 1E, 1E. And I'm hoping to get that done soon so I can share that with people and make some announcements about some upcoming projects soon, including one I've been working on for over a year and trying to get going and finally making some progress on it. So it's going to be really, really, really good time to be a 1E player. So stay optimistic in the cold and scary 2020. There's some really cool 1E stuff coming down the pipeline. Any specific questions, I'm happy to address. But overall, June was a slow month for us. It didn't move a lot of things as much as I was hoping, but things are still marching along in pretty good pace. And 1E and Tribbles are doing well.
Charlie, had a couple of Tribbles questions, if you don't mind. Marcus Eberling asked about an updated Tribbles button checklist, and I'm not as familiar with the buttons as I should be. Do you know if that's a thing we can get together?
Yeah, I'll put that on my to-do list. I have that somewhere, and I'll probably upload it to somewhere where you can get to it and other people can get to it. We haven't ordered any new buttons this year. We were going to, and then everything just gestures at the room. 2020 happened, but we can do an update of that document and then work on making sure it's updated more regularly. But I don't think we haven't ordered any of the new Tribble Power buttons or any we need to order some new buttons and get those out into the world because there are people who really like those. But it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, the other thing was if there's a list of the Tribbles cards that were reprinted as foils.
Should be the virtual promo page should cover all of the ones that are foiled.
I think he's talking about he wants to know which we've sent out as prizes, not like the virtual promos.
Oh, it's all parallel.
Yeah,
we've done all of the virtual sets as foils. We just print them as virtual foils so that they don't have different numbers. They aren't promo numbered. Every virtual Tribble could be a promo.
to my knowledge, the only ones I haven't seen are the Troubles from whichever set Troubles came out in. I forget.
Yeah, those have never been released.
But the Tribbles from that set have been released as foils.
I think every Tribbles set except the most recent one has at some point been printed and distributed as a prize foil. There's no, it's literally just like when we order Tribbles foils, he just prints from the same file that everybody else prints from, just on the foil paper. So there's nothing different about them except the ones that have AIs. So it's like cracking magic packs. Every card in there could be a foil. So.
Okay.
What was the set, Charlie, on the movies? Project Solo, and what was the other one?
Rogue and Solo. Rogue is first. It's classic films. And Solo is the TNG films, mostly Nemesis. It was originally the Star Wars block when it was 3 sets. It was Hope, Empire, and Jedi. And then when we condensed it from 3 to 2, I just switched it to the 2 Star Wars story movies instead. So.
Okay. Let's see. Maggie, did you have any little notes on second edition for an updates?
Sure, I can let people know what I know is going on with second edition.
Okay.
So within the last month, Bruce has been, Project Bruce, which is the first of the 2020 Year of Interaction sets, has finished up playtesting, has been released to proofreading now. So it's currently in proofreading, looking to head, once wording is getting cleaned up on a couple of different cards in Bruce, but it's in the hands of creative now. I will reveal that the set's name is going to be All Our Yesterdays, because it does focus on interaction, and most of the personnel are past personnel. So we're calling it, so it's being called All Our Yesterdays. So I'll spoil that. So that's in proofreading and creative. It's getting the final rules passed on a couple of wordings for a couple of cards. Project Clark has been released to play testing. We have also, so in terms of second edition play testing, Nick has hired a playtest manager, Ben Liebig, to direct the play testing. So that's already begun. We have, so the idea is that the play testers, he has assigned priorities to the themes in Project Clark. I guess we could call it the Clark 1A maybe. He's assigned priorities to the themes that are in that deck, that are in that set, and people have picked up, I can play test this, I can play test this, I can play test that. His job is to collect our comments from the playtesting board and deliver them to the designers, and then deliver the designer feedback back to the playtester. So facilitating that communication between the two groups. So far so good on that. So Project Clark is focusing on, Clark was originally a larger set, pitched as a 54 card set. Nick cut that into 2 27 card sets. This first one, Clark, what's being called, I don't like to call it Clark A, because A is also how we number the playtest iterations, but the first set of Clark is got Terranor and Deep Space Nine stuff. And then apparently, and I haven't seen Clark, the second half of Clark, but it's more TNG focused things. And again, this is Interaction 2020, the idea of making meaningful choices between the two sets. So the first Clark has gone into playtesting, and we're working on that. So that's where second edition is at soon. I don't recall what the target date for All Our Yesterdays is. Call one Clark and the other one Kent. We just got that suggestion from Ben in the chat room. I kind of like that one actually. And Or we could do one as people were complaining, where's Project Arthur? Or Clark and Call L. Also, thank you, Charlie. I like that too. But yeah, it's so second edition is getting back on track. Oh, Errata is meeting right after this meeting. So that will be my third Trek CC meeting of today. When we have Errata team meeting, there will be a few cards coming out, I think are coming out for a July release. I honestly can't remember. So but things are moving again, and this is good.
Okay. Let's see. Chris, Department of Organized Play is not on the call, but he did leave some notes, so I will read them for the audience, I suppose. So Organized Play team continues to move forward with scheduling events in the COVID-19 world with a 5-month-long subspace series kickstarting next weekend with the United States Nationals. We have 18 pre-registered for 1E and 14 pre-registered for 2E so far. We hope to draw even bigger crowds as the event gets closer. Organized Play Director Chris Sonsonby will be keeping track of all the events people play in during the 5-month-long subspace series of tournaments, and participants will qualify for some truly unique prizes just for playing, not only for winning. Prize donations have come from several sources, and with over $300 invested in CC tournament kits so far, we guarantee there will be something special for everyone. We hope you will join us in one or several of these tournaments in the coming months. If playing in person is more your style, the German 1E Nationals are also next weekend at 3rd Annual Kaiserfest, and I hope I'm saying this right, Hamhausen, Germany? Maggie, is that the way you pronounce it?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. 6 players are pre-registered, though we've heard rumors that some others will make the trip. This event has quickly become a marquee summertime gig as participants routinely play pool volleyball in between matches. I hope the cards don't get wet. Our special thanks go out to Johannes Klarhauser for consistently putting on a terrific event, and we wish all the best to each competitor on their quest to become German national champion. And finally, the OP team would like to remind players that whenever they are comfortable hosting either an awarded Masters or a locally held regional in person, they're free to do so. In the event that playing together is not possible or advisable, we are all willing to pitch in and help our tournament directors in hosting these events virtually. So please just let us know your event's new dates and details so that we can get them appropriately flagged in the system. Just keep playing, folks. If there's any questions or other organized play topics, shoot Chris Sonsonby, who is lower on the forums, a PM, and we can work and figure it out.
Yeah, shameless plug, Tuesday night tribbles, weekly, 9 p.m. Central. All of the tournaments through July and August are on the Trek CC, are in the tournament system now. So shameless plug, Tuesday night tribbles.
Yes, there are.
Time.
9 p.m. Central. And
there are a lot of tournaments in the system right now for the future.
Yes. So also if I've put this out there before, if people want me to put together a weekly tribbles tournament in a European time zone, let me know. I'm happy to do that.
Okay. I guess we'll do ops now, which is me. On the programming side, I guess this is not the most useful metric for work done, but in the past month, I think we've updated code in over 300 source code files for the site. That's not something we would have been able to do a few months ago before we got a source control system. But now that we have that in place, everyone on the programming team can just, they can go in and work a little bit at a time, update it, and we're able to track who's changing what. And so things aren't being overwritten as much, or And actually the main help that this is that everyone has access to see all of the code. So that is what's helping to push this, all of our little projects forward, and of course the big project, which is new sites. So there's progress being made. I have no good way to tell you when that date is coming for the new site, but it is coming. So yeah, there's that. Over on the promenade, it looks like Dan has shipped everything in the backlog up until June 14th. Or at least they're all marked as shipped. I don't
He
know.
was packing orders during office hours yesterday.
Okay. I was gonna say, I don't know if they've all hit the post office, but they're all marked as shipped. So, yep. So that everyone should be getting their stuff soon. I think that's it for ops for all I have for right now. Justin, you want to do finance? You're on mute still.
That would help if I do that. I do that at work during Teams. I have to double mute myself and meeting. Like, oh, non-mute. Oops. Let's start over. Yeah, work's been crazy, and I do apologize to everyone. The minutes for the last month meetings took longer than anticipated. Those are up now. Finance been fairly quiet. It's not much to tell. With COVID-19, of course, the promenade has slowed down. We're not really buying any. We're not really spending money on anything since we don't have any tournaments, and so we're kind of in a holding pattern. I anticipate probably focus on getting things set up for next year, play mats for next year, and foils for next year. So probably see some increased expenses here in the coming months. Other than that, yeah, fairly quiet. Not really much going on. I don't know. Have we got the PayPal switched over yet, Brian? Because I don't know. Chris has the access, the login information, so I don't know if that's been done yet.
I don't remember either. I'll have to check after we're done.
Okay. Yeah. And Jeremy, if you're listening to this, I did not get to your email in the inbox last night. I will be doing that today, and we'll get that squared away here in the coming days.
Okay. All right, Maggie, executive officer stuff. I know you have a bunch of stuff, and it's probably going to run over into some of our new business, so that's why I saved you for the last on that end. So.
Yeah, I mean, my time for executive officer has been taken up with the director of communication search committee this month. So that's in the new business, and I will be happy to report on that when we do that. Oh, and the director of, and the chief ambassador post also.
Okay.
Which has been announced, but yeah, I mean, we can move on to new business.
then we'll go to the, I guess it's technically old business, the search for director of communication. So we'll do that right now then.
All right, perfect. Yes, the search committee has worked hard. We had after the begging and pleading of the last board meeting, we had 3 very, very, very strong candidates apply. So I would like to send a thank you to Scott and Ben and Richard as the putting their names forth for candidates for the position. We appreciate your willingness to serve. And so we conducted the interviews over last weekend and into this week, and those interviews we posted publicly. Posted that publicly on Thursday, so we had some public comment on that. And the committee ultimately did choose Scott Bowman as our new director of communications, and he has accepted that position. This was a very, 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 very close vote, and you know, a lot of times people are like, we want to see more of how the sausage is made. So I'll do a little report and let you know, tell you all about that. This was a very, very close vote. It was, Ben was the runner-up in the vote, and his candidacy was one of the very, very important strong suits of his candidacy, besides his good communication skills and things that he wanted to do from his application, from his interview, is that, you know, he would represent, you know, he would be a representative of the European continent on the board, and that was a very, very, very strong reason that, you know, that people advocated for his position. You know, everyone on the committee acknowledged that Scott has the professional experience for the position. But, you know, it was felt that we really that the board does, you know, need more European presence on it. And, you know, and that was a big concern, bringing Scott in as another American. So we talked a lot, and we wanted to, you know, we did feel that this issue of European communication, it comes up often. I mean, I've seen the complaints about this in the 1E gameplay. Well, you know, I've been warning about X card for, you know, 5 years now, but it wasn't until Y American broke it, you know, that people stood up and paid attention. So we feel we really need a communications presence in, you know, a point person where, you know, our European contingent can feel comfortable coming to this point person and talking about it. So we were hoping that Ben would be willing to serve as this, that Scott would be willing to implement that position, and Ben would be willing to serve as that sort of liaison position. By the way, Scott would very much like to have come and accept this position in person today, except this board meeting happens to coincide with his virtual church service. So we do, so that is why, you know, and this was a very last minute thing. Our meeting was this morning. I'm still feeling a little it was, I won't say it wasn't heated. It was, I wasn't expecting controversy within a search committee for the director of communications position. You know, I thought that was all done when the second edition director was chosen. So I don't know, any comments, any questions about the process? Oh, and one thing that before, Nerdo says I can reveal everything that he said. You know, we also, before we implement this idea of having a European point person in communications, that we should put a poll, you know, that we should poll the European crowd and ask them if this is something that they really, really want. Because one of the points that came up was that this, you know, that this would be a sop. That position would just be like a figurehead, a sop to the European crowd. You know, we don't want them feeling like, oh, we're doing this, you know, that this is, you know, we're putting this position out here, but it's not going to really mean anything, and it's not going to change anything. You know, so many companies, and this came up during the talk about a diversity statement. So many companies have diversity statements that are absolute just crap because they don't act on those diversity statements. And so, you know, we don't want that to be, the committee was like, we want to ask the Europeans if this is something that they would want, you know, and not just like, hey, we're throwing a bone out there for you all.
So I guess right now, since we have the recommendation from the committee, would anyone like a motion to approve that recommendation of voting for Scott Bowman as Director of Communications?
I move to approve.
Okay, can we get a second?
I don't know if I can second because I brought the proposal forward. So Justin?
Justin, would you like to second? You're on mute.
Yes, we will second the vote to vote.
Okay, so then Maggie, are you in favor of Scott Bowman for Director of Communications?
I am in favor of that.
Justin?
Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
And I will also vote in favor. So Scott is not available right now, obviously, but he's now officially the Director of Communications. May God be with you.
And I did want to point out, I did not vote. I was not a voting member of the search committee. Because I had 5 people volunteer, and I don't ever want to turn down people who say, yes, I'll volunteer. So I did not vote. It was a vote amongst the 5 committee members.
Okay. Next item is appointment of Robin Honeycutt as Chief Ambassador. So this would be an officer of the corporation level appointment, which is part of the reason why we're going to do it here among the board rather than just have Scott appoint him. So do we have any discussion on that?
I like what I've seen so far from his posting. Looks like he's really going to be committed to traveling to every region, which is commendable if he can do it and make it money wise. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be able to bridge the gap, and I think we've been missing.
All right. Could we get a motion to approve him?
I'll move to approve.
A second?
Second.
All right. It seems silly to have to ask. Maggie, do you approve?
Sure, yeah.
Justin, do you approve?
Yes.
Charlie, do you approve?
Yep.
And I also approve. So Robin Honeycutt, officially the Chief Ambassador. Sorry. Let's see. So we're truncating the new business since we don't have. We didn't feel comfortable with the just 4 of us amending the bylaws. So we're gonna put that off at least till next month when we have more board members in the meeting. Let's see. I think the only thing left would be public comment period, and Ben Liebick wanted to.
Rainbow foil paper.
Oh, rainbow foil paper, right? Sorry, missed that. Charlie, did you
So
have
the
any?
news isn't good. The company that makes it seems to have gone out of business, but they claim they have been bought by someone else, or at least their stock has been bought by someone else. I have reached out again to try to get a hold of whatever we can get a hold of, but it may be done. And I think so. We had previously agreed to print the stuff that would have been on the rainbow paper on the regular paper this year. We may need to just decide that is the policy moving forward. And if we ever get our hands on some more, we can decide how to allocate it. But it does not appear to be available anymore. If I manage to hear back from the least communicative guy I want to give money to in my life, then I will let you know. But 2 months of trying, and I've gotten 2 replies out of 15 messages. So
I can't imagine why they've gone out of business.
Like, man, I have never met somebody who has been more unwilling to get money from a customer than this guy. But I'm sure he's had his own stress, and they're in Texas, which is exploding right now. So I'm not giving up, but I no longer really have any good news to share, or even really any optimism to share. So the rainbow paper may be back to done. This has happened before. I feel like a Battlestar Galactica character. You know, we had it and then we couldn't get it, and then it came back, and now we're back to can't get it again. So we'll see.
Okay. All right, public comments, unless anyone has anything else. All right, so Ben Liebick is second edition playtesting lead, and he wants to comment on communicating with the community. So if we can invite him in, that'd be.
Or I will I'm sorry, I should have been thinking about this before. But yeah, I will send him. I'll send him a PM now. So Ben has the. Oh, I've been thinking about it. I just could have sent him. There, I whispered to him in the chat room. So hopefully he'll hop on. Oh. And let's see. Watch the waiting room. And here we are.
Hi, Ben. Are you ready to speak, Ben? If you are speaking. Yeah, now we can hear you.
All right. Hello. Okay. First of all, happy belated birthday to Brian.
Thank you.
And I came here today or rather asked to come here today. Oh, hang on. Something weird going on with my connection here. Okay. Because I wanted to raise a little bit of awareness to how, some of the actions that the board took in the past months have been perceived by the community, and how you might do better with that. So nothing of what I'm about to say here is in any form intended as throwing shade on somebody. But I just want to try and help for a better understanding of how the community perceives your actions. And mainly because you are the leaders of this community, and therefore the community has to trust in you and has to trust that you're doing the right things. And the only way to gain and maintain that trust is to allow people to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? So there have been at least 3 instances in the first half of the year alone that have been critical decisions on your behalf, and I think they have been in some form poorly communicated to the community, and some of that has led to quite unnecessary fallout that could have been prevented if there had been a little more proactive communication on your part. So I don't want to waste too much of your time with this, but I want to give you at least two examples, and I think of the three instances that we have here, that's one is the announcement of the World's postponement, and then we have, you know, Nick's problems with COVID and the delays that had led to in TUI, and then also, of course, the Corbett and Haas banning. And I'm not here to challenge any of these decisions. I mean, those were your decisions, and you had every right to make them the way you did. The only thing I am trying to say is that the way you choose to handle the communication of these decisions is I think it's challenging, but it hasn't been handled very well. For example, in the instance of Nick's problems with COVID, you know, there hasn't been a lot going on in TUI in the first half of the year, and some of that was due to the problems that Nick had. And everybody can have problems. I'm not throwing shade on Nick for that, but you know, the department heads were getting antsy, and nobody really knew what they should do. And then, you know, there was that meeting that you know, nobody knew about officially, but everybody knew about. And you know, and then there was that meeting, and for a week after that, nothing happened. And so people came up with their own stories about what's going on. And the problem with that is you gave away the narrative on that. You know, at the point where you're not saying, hey, something's up in TUI for this and this and this problem, and we're having a meeting to find out what's going on. I mean, you don't have to give everybody every detail of information, but just keep people in the loop. Keep telling them what you're doing and why you're doing it. And at that moment, when you do that, when you take a proactive stance in telling people what you're doing, you are dictating the narrative. And at that point, you're less prone to you know, you make it harder for people to challenge you on what you're doing, because in that time frame where nobody knew what was going on, people came up with their own stories, and then you have people like John in there who you like to stir up things, and at the moment where you dictate the narrative, that's not happening, or at least you make yourself less prone to be challenged by people from the community. So the other obvious point that I have here was the Corbett and Haas banning and the way that got handled, which was a disaster in my opinion. It's I mean, again, I'm not challenging what you did. You felt that was the way you needed to go, and you went with it. But this was a serious decision to make, and therefore it had to be communicated carefully. And instead, I mean, the announcement. I want to say sorry to Maggie, because you've heard a lot about this on the roundtable, so I'm sorry that I have to drag you through that again. But I think it's important for the others to know and to understand what I'm trying to tell you here is, instead of, you know, again, instead of taking a proactive stance here, opening up a thread on the boards and saying, hey, this is what we had to do, and those were the reasons that we were doing it for. The announcement got made on page whatever on the mod thread. And even if that wasn't the intent, that gave it a very bad look, I think, because I've talked to a couple of people who all said the same thing. Hey, they buried it in that thread because that's where the least amount of people would find it. And so, as I said, even if that was not the intent, but that's the way people perceived it. So, and then of all the board members, I think Brian shouldn't have been the one to make that announcement, because you were, in my opinion, way too involved in the whole discussion preceding that. So that gave it a very bad look, in my opinion. And yes, you're the chairman, and therefore it's probably your duty to make an announcement like that. But in the overall look, that looked very bad, because you were so involved in that discussion, and in the end, that just gave it a look like somebody abusing his powers to get rid of a vocal opposition. And again, even if that wasn't the intent, but that's how people perceived it. And finally, the timing of that announcement was also, not great, because I'm not quite sure. It's been a while. I don't remember every detail, but I think, Brian, you said you had to get out of the house or something after that, and so it left the public. I mean, there was that post, and then it left the public alone with it. And people had a lot of questions, and basically all of those went unanswered for quite a while that day. And I mean, it's with an announcement as critical as that, somebody has to be there to address it, to address the public concerns immediately. And I mean, this goes back to the point where you're controlling the narrative, and you're not giving anybody a chance to make unnecessary attacks and stir up the public in an unnecessary amount against what you're doing. So if you can't guarantee that, because real life always trumps Trek stuff, but then try not to make an announcement as important as that at a point where nobody's there that can defend it. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, I just want you to try and remember that when you're making these announcements, you're addressing an audience that doesn't have the background information that you might have, and you need to walk them through the decisions you're making step by step, so they have a chance to understand what you're doing and where your decisions are coming from. Yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to say.
I can't say you're wrong on stressing how we should communicate. And this is one role where obviously a director of communications would have come in handy. And I wish we didn't have to do any of it, honestly. Let alone have to post the things we did. So I definitely wish it went off better, and it definitely would have gone off better, I think, if we had a director of communications at the time. But I think your comments were fair.
I agree that it's the things that you've been telling us here are correct, and they are.
Did Maggie freeze? I think Maggie froze mid-sentence, which is probably not good for us because she's the host. Okay, there she goes.
Yay! Yeah, no, I agree that those are fair criticisms, Ben. And not with there are mitigating circumstances, at least with two of those decisions, but we should have been better in communicating all of those, certainly. And I with that wholeheartedly. So I'm hoping that we learn and we get, that we are learning and getting better at this. I'll say for my part, whenever there's a criticism about the way we operate here, try to make things better. Like, criticisms about the second edition search from, that yielded Ross a few years ago has changed the way that we do search committees. I would have, before this, I never would have made the interview videos public. And criticism about how we run the period of review led to that being something that it had, something that, although I don't know if people will agree with me, does have teeth. So we keep trying. We keep trying to get better. I'm trying to keep communication open now after all of these things have happened. So the search committee results today went out as soon as we had them, and if you and Richard hadn't seen the private messages, I probably would have held off on announcing the person. It went because the meeting didn't get out until about 45 minutes before this meeting started. So I didn't want you all to hear from watching the board meeting that you didn't get the position, because that's been something that's happened in the past. So, as new things come up, we try to learn. Thank you for coming on and willing to come on here and tell us that we all suck.
But we know we suck at some things.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's see. I don't think we have any other things on the agenda that we aren't pushing to the next one next month. Anything else you guys think we should bring up before we adjourn the meeting?
No, I don't have anything.
There's a comment from someone in the chat room about what Ben was talking about. We should probably read it and address it.
If you can read, that'd be...
It's from Malice, Chris Loban. He says, Ben, I generally agree with everything you said. That's always been a weakness of the CC. But one minor issue is that you said two contradicting things. One, you need to announce things immediately to control the narrative. Two, don't announce things immediately if you're not around to deal with the fallout. Wait till you have time to deal with it properly. Unfortunately, those two things seem to come into conflict far too often, especially when everybody is a volunteer and has other priorities in life, which leads to people needing to choose between the lesser of two evils. So I guess that's Chris's comment, and he articulated something that I was struggling to, but yeah, it's like, when those two are in conflict, what is your suggestion?
I think it's fair. It's probably falls under the part where you try to give them something. If you're not able or ready to defend the immediate decision, then just like I said before, give them something. Say, hey, something's coming. We're having this meeting right now, and please expect results to drop then. And yeah, it's probably the best I can come up with on the spot. But yeah, I'm not sure if I got anything else to that.
Would a compromise in that case be? I'm just trying to understand. Would a compromise in that particular case, where you said if we had to ban somebody, in the initial post to say, we have taken this action, somebody will be available at this time to answer questions, or schedule there will be a live stream at this time to answer questions. Like, is that better, or is it better to, because like in that particular case, there was an immediately actionable need. Like if you're removing someone for threats of legal action, you can't wait 6 hours to do that, because that's opening your, there are legal reasons to do things and do things swiftly. So like, how do you balance that in that situation? Like, you didn't think Brian should have made the announcement, but it's very clearly Brian's job to do that. And if you wanted, would it be better to say, here's the announcement, other board members will be around to answer your questions, or to make the announcement and say, I will be around later to answer your questions? Or I just want to understand, you've brought up a lot of good suggestions for problems, but where are the solutions in your mind? Because I don't want the solution to be worse than the original problem.
I don't think I have a good solution right now. And I never said I had all the answers to that. I just I wanted to at least bring it up as a point of discussion. And I'm not sure. I think we need to talk about that. But that's a good point that you brought up, because that was something that I didn't take into account when I came up with that.
There was nothing about that was ideal. When we were doing the meeting, I was literally in the car on the phone, and then right after the meeting, I made the post as soon as I could, and then I was not online at all for hours. And when I did, I came back, I tried to answer what questions I could. It wasn't an ideal situation for that day. That day I was just not much online. I was literally in amongst trees chopping them down. So
At least you got to use a chainsaw, so bonus.
This is true. But yeah, it was not, even making the decision wasn't ideal, but it was just, I tried to post the information that I could as quickly as I could, and then got back to it as quickly as I could as well to answer questions. And I'm completely aware that it would have been great if I was available the whole day. I just wasn't. And that's just how it ended up happening.
Yeah, the thing I probably might want to add to that is that I don't think it would have been necessary for you to be there to answer the question. But I mean, this was in fact a unified board decision. So I think at least I'm not exactly recalling who was there and who wasn't there, but I think at least the board has to be represented in some form, no matter who of you that is. I mean, if it was a unified decision, then I don't think it really matters which of the board members defends it.
I think according to the bylaws, though, it has to be me. Or it has to be the chair, not me specifically. Just it had to be the chair.
Had to make the announcement. What do you mean? Had to be you?
To be the representative in the legal matters.
Oh, okay. No, that was not what I was talking about. I was talking about, just to address the concerns of the community.
Right, but the community concerns were regarding legal matters.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm not expecting a solution. I just, your comments are valid and brought up more questions. And I
Yes.
think the discussion of how best, we could sit here and analyze this to death. The question is, how do we do better? We don't have time travel, so how do we do better going forward? Not that I'm expecting having to repeat that circumstance. Hopefully never. But if there are we can do better in communications. It's just trying to figure that out. And I just don't want this to be all about you fucked up. I want it to be, I think you fucked up, but here's how you can do better. And I wanted you to have the opportunity to address that, Ben, because I appreciate you coming on here.
Did we have any other comments? And I know because we've gone around on that one a couple times. So I don't have the chat windows open right now. Does anyone see anyone else making comments? Nothing. Okay. Can we get a Oh.
Sandy's just talking about consulting lawyer jargon in the chat room. I don't know if we need to address that or not.
about consulting a lawyer?
Yeah, I think just talking.
Just read what he said. I'll do it. Fine. Sandy said, I guess I don't understand why you can't just set a timeline for response. It's interesting that you claim there are legal reasons to do these things without consulting a lawyer. I mean, in the real world, if anything, actions predicated by legal requirements are more scrutinized than ones that merely violate policy. I mean, ironically, making those statements might be opening you up to libel is all I'm saying, not intended as a legal threat before you pin. So, I don't have anything to say to that. I'll let other people address that.
I'm not sure there's any way to address that other than you have to make a decision on when to go to a lawyer, and the bylaws are pretty clear that we don't have to. So why would we spend resources to do that?
We acted based on precedent too. It's not like there was a previous case several years ago where somebody made a threat of legal action and they were banned. They eventually came back after the situation was talked through and resolved. That was the precedent that we used. And now as a nonprofit organization, that as board members, there are responsibilities to protect the corporation. That's what we acted on. There wasn't any gray area there. It's not. We would consult a lawyer if we were actually challenged with legal action, but the threat of legal action doesn't mandate a legal response. It mandates a official response. Is my take on it.
It's essentially, yes. Thank you, Charlie. Any more of this horse to beat, or? Would someone like to motion to adjourn?
Sorry, I just want us to reiterate that we're deferring the bylaw updates. I don't know that was clear.
Yes, we are deferring the bylaw updates to next month when we have more board members available to vote on them.
Sandy is continuing by saying, because saying XXX made a legal threat when they didn't in fact do so can be actionable, and then says, so then the banning didn't need to be immediate. I feel like what I have said has been taken out of context, and I'm not going to say anything further. I'll let you guys address that.
The board considered their actions a legal threat, a threat of litigation, and we acted upon that. And if you want more details, you can go read the post that I made, and you could read the minutes that we released. Granted, those minutes we wanted to release earlier. Justin apologized. He was just busy and forgot to post them. But we put them out today. Going around in circles on this more is not going to be productive.
So I will move to adjourn the meeting, as I am now 19 minutes late for the second edition errata team meeting.
All right.
Just a second.
Okay. Any opposed to adjourning the meeting? All right. We'll consider this meeting adjourned. The next one will be late July. I'll post when we have the actual date and time. Ben, thanks for joining us. Sandy, thank you for your comments. Yep, that's it for this one.